Hey guys, welcome to Y&R Daily News YouTube channel. Today's topics: Young and the Restless spoilers reveal the scandals that will be at the heart of Billy and Sally's relationship. Beneath the glittering facade of Genoa City's fashion and media industry, Sally's story is taking a tragic and cautionary turn. She entered the game with enough talent and ambition to climb the corporate ladder, finding her feet at Marchetti, where each sketch she sketched could be turned into a coveted collection. But at a time when she should have cemented her position, Sally made an emotional choice: leave her blossoming home to join Billy at Abbott Communications. From there, a series of emotional decisions, combined with Billy's unresolved obsessions, quietly eroded both Sally's career and her heart, dragging her into a spiral of hurt that she now finds herself a part of. Marchetti was more than a job. It was a platform for Sally to assert her professional identity, a designer who knew how to tell stories through fabrics, cuts, and brand spirit. There she had a team, a momentum, meetings where her ideas were heard, tested, and put on the runway. When she left, Sally gave up a steady accumulation, a network of partners, a supply chain, and a thread of prestige that thickened season by season. Few understood better than her that once she left the wheel of high fashion, returning to the center runway would be arduous. But Sally chose to go anyway, believing that love and the desire to build something bigger with Billy could make up for it. But at the moment when her heart took the wheel, she stepped out of her strongest zone and into a dangerous place, a power struggle that Billy could never escape. Abbott Communications was unfamiliar territory for Sally. Instead of fabrics, she had to learn the language of ratings, CPMs, content strategy, and media crisis management. In theory, Sally's creative flair could breathe life into any brand. But the reality was harsher. A media organization in the eye of a storm can only function well with a steady hand at the helm. Billy, unfortunately, was haunted by two names that never left his mind: Jill and Victor. His need to prove something to Jill made him constantly focus on winning over being right, while his resentment toward Victor turned any opportunity for collaboration into a battleground of suspicion. In closed-door meetings, when Sally suggested integrated campaigns, combining content, fashion partnerships, and digital assets, Billy pushed all his thinking toward countering Chancellor or positioning himself against Victor. As a result, what could have been a breakthrough for Abbott Communications was twisted into a vengeful attempt, undermining the strategic value Sally had sought to build. The heartbreaking thing was Sally saw it coming pretty early. She saw the late-night calls, not about ideas, but about competitors. The KPIs not about user engagement, but about who had outperformed. She saw the professional relationships, the bridges the brand needed, burned by pride and the rush to win, while Sally tried to maintain professionalism, keeping the team on track. She also had to bandage the emotional wounds that arose from a relationship that had become a business liability. Every time she offered a gentle suggestion, Billy heard it as criticism. Every time she defended the operating principles, Billy read it as disapproval. A vacuum gradually formed between them. The love was there, but the common language for work and the future was fading. Yet, this story is more than a personal tragedy. It is a microcosm of how an unaddressed obsession can collapse the ecosystem around it. Billy repeatedly tried to escape Jill's shadow, both wanting to prove he could lead without patronage, and wanting the approval of that powerful woman. Juxtaposed with that was Victor, the symbol of enduring power that Billy was always trying to defeat. As these two goals intertwined, Billy could barely see the line between strategy and emotion, between long-term vision and short-term wins. And when a leader loses this ability to discern, the first to suffer is the person who stands by her side, Sally. She was caught up in a culture of knee-jerk reactions, forced to coordinate campaigns, born of defensive motivations rather than core values. And gradually she found herself looking in the mirror every morning and asking, "Who am I becoming in this story?" But in every story of love and ambition in Genoa City, one door closing often means another opening. If the characters dared to look the truth in the face for Sally, the first step is to name the root cause. Subscribe our channel for more latest update. Her relationship with love and work has been reversed. She must pay the price, not through despair, but by redesigning her life the way she would redesign a collection, filtering out the emotional fluff, retaining the clean lines, but still being bold, and most importantly, choosing the right runway. This could mean returning to fashion in a more flexible model, creative consulting, capsule partnerships with brands, building her own e-commerce channel, or if she remains at Abbott Communications, setting clear professional boundaries with Billy. She takes charge of creative and brand strategy, and he commits to a data-driven decision-making structure, with internal controls that prevent the company from becoming a playground for retaliation. For Billy, the question of do you regret it, do you seek her forgiveness, should not stop with an apology. Billy has apologized many times in his life, only to fall back into the same rut. What Sally and the ecosystem around Abbott Communications needs is evidence of structural change, a roadmap to separate the Chancellor obsession from corporate KPIs, an independent advisory board to stop impulsive decisions, a commitment to stop using Victor as a compass. If Billy is truly remorseful, he must prioritize sustainability over instant victory, must know when to stop even when provoked, must learn to say no to the urge to prove himself to Jill. Only then will an apology have weight, and Sally's return in love and work will have a basis to open. On the future scale, there are a few plausible scenarios. Scenario 1. Sally takes the initiative to step out, restarting her fashion career with an independent strategy. She uses her legacy at Marchetti, relationships, signature design style to launch a personal line, perhaps starting with small capsules, testing the market, targeting the customer segment that has embraced her story. Once she has the momentum, she can solicit investment or ally with a new label not bound by corporate animosity. Scenario 2. Sally stays at Abbott Communications, but re-engages strategically, requiring a firewall between love and work, which means she and Billy need a strong COO or CSO to keep them on track, and the two of them, if they remain a couple, will need a clear code of conduct in the workplace. Scenario 3. A sudden turn of events, perhaps an offer from an international partner who had watched Sally at Marchetti, brings her back onto the stage in a way that makes Abbott Communications itself recognize the value she has lost. Whatever the scenario, the key is that Sally regains control. She doesn't need to deny love to find herself. She just needs to put it in its proper place. Billy can be a partner if he has the courage to let go of the burden of obsession. If he realizes that proving it to Jill or getting back at Victor never ends. Every short-term victory sows the seeds of long-term defeat. A sustainable media business must stand on its values and its audience, not on its enemies. When Billy understands that, he can become the kind of leader Sally respects, and love has a chance to heal itself. At this point, Sally has the right to blame herself for putting her heart above her career at a sensitive moment, but blame to stay awake, not to wallow in remorse. She used to create collections that made audiences explode. That generative power is still intact. If she turns this painful lesson into a new working philosophy, transparency, boundaries, and prioritizing values, then losing Marchetti will become an investment for a spectacular comeback. And then, whether walking with Billy or walking alone, Sally can smile in the mirror, recognizing the familiar silhouette of the woman she used to be, brave, creative, and uncompromising with anything that takes her off the runway. For Genoa City audiences, Sally's journey mirrors a simple yet valuable truth. Talent blossoms where there is discipline and vision. Love endures when it is kept within healthy boundaries. And unresolved obsessions, whether named Jill or Victor, if not put to rest, will consume everything. If Billy can learn that lesson and make structural, not just verbal changes, the door to forgiveness is still there, waiting for him to walk through. If not, Sally can just keep going. Her path, however, leads back to the stage where she shines brightest. And perhaps that is the fitting ending for a woman who has paid the price long enough to understand her own worth. The story of ambition, love, and promises of redemption once again spiraled into a familiar cycle called Billy. Subscribe our channel for more latest update. When Billy finally pushed Jack to withdraw his sponsorship, threw all his efforts into building a new alliance with Kane, and then watched it go up in smoke in the blink of an eye, it was a clear reflection of his habit of making impulsive decisions, following his emotions first, thinking long-term later. That decision not only blew up Abbott Communications' already fragile financial leverage, but also drained the trust of those around him, especially Sally, who sacrificed a thriving career path to bet on a promise called, "I'll do it right this time." When an alliance is built on resentment and impulsive moments, rather than a two-way benefit structure, its collapse so quickly is not really surprising. The surprise lies in Billy's belief that he can repeat the same formula and expect a different result. In the ideal operating model of a media company, money and trust are two cogs turning together. Funding allows for infrastructure, but trust is what keeps partners, employees, and audiences engaged for the long haul. By urging Jack to withdraw funding to build momentum for the Kane Alliance, Billy had traded both cogs in one move. In terms of money, Abbott Communications was running out of steam just before launch. In terms of trust, the hasty decision showed that the company could change strategy on a whim. Kane might provide a few quick deals, but trust structures require time, process, and consistency. When the alliance fizzled out, the message to the market was clear. Abbott Communications was not ready for long-term commitments. And at that point, Sally, who aspires to build a media brand that breathes data, creativity, and a sustainable rhythm, is forced to ask herself, is she standing on the deck of a ship whose captain still steers by instinct rather than compass? Sally, by nature, is more than just Billy's woman. She is a brand builder who follows every conversion metric, an eye for partnership, a hand that knows how to connect story and revenue. When she agreed to leave her comfort zone to accompany Billy, Sally expected a disciplined game, one where strategy wasn't distorted by emotion and where promises weren't invisible IUs that kept coming back. She waited patiently for the moment Billy would put her in the number one spot, number one in strategy meetings, in agenda priorities, in the choices between revenge and growth. But number one was never a slogan. It requires specific actions, stopping when the desire for revenge arises, putting KPIs before ego, listening, and writing down Sally's proposed boundaries. On the other hand, Sally understands that Billy is not asking too much when he asks her to stand up to Chancellor and all his confrontational schemes, because for Billy, that's how he loves, demanding that the person he loves also become an ally in his personal fight. The problem is, love can't be the only reason a media company goes down the hate tunnel. And Sally, if she's going to continue betting, needs more than just heart. Billy insists he's ready to do everything right this time. Restructure, set tight budgets, bring in independent consultants, even agree to stand behind Sally in some areas so she has full control. On paper, it's a set of standards that should overturn preconceptions about him. But Billy's history suggests a different trajectory. Initial bursts of commitment, initial tightening of discipline, then a small spark from the past, a challenge from Chancellor, A nudge from Victor, a moment of Jill's attitude that derails him. That record makes the this time claim fragile. To avoid a repeat, Billy must turn words into mechanisms. Install a two-tier approval process for every major decision. Create a firewall between the editorial department and any campaign that smacks of personal confrontation. Create a quarterly agenda with milestones that can't be changed on impulse. Otherwise, this time will be a loose band-aid on an old wound. Meanwhile, the Abbott Communications funding problem forced Billy to confront the reality of the market. There are no surefire guarantees. Investors hate risk from people more than risk from business models. They might believe in a fledgling idea if the leader is competent, but will pull out even if the model is good, if the leader is unpredictable. Billy wanted his money back, but every sudden pivot, every fleeting alliance that fell apart, left a mark on his credit record. To turn things around, he needed to prove two things. 1, 6 months of scandal-free, emotion-free operations. 2, growth in a few hard metrics, like ad revenue, watch time, user retention, numbers Sally could help achieve if she were truly empowered. And if Billy continued to prioritize the need to beat someone over market recognition, every fundraising round would still be battled by the simple question, what guarantees this time will be different? And this is where the story comes back to Sally. Does she really trust Billy not to break things again? If the opportunity for revenge presents itself, trust means she's willing to trade her time and reputation for that risk. Subscribe our channel for more latest update. Not trusting means she needs a new contract architecture. A pragmatic roadmap for Sally might have 3 layers. Layer 1, personal boundaries. Any decisions that might affect brand equity or partnerships must be discussed with her. Layer 2, limited veto power. In Chancellor Victor Jill situations, if Sally senses emotional signals, she can trigger a 48-hour pause to bring the issue back to the data frame. Layer 3, career backup plan. A standalone project called Sally, a digital fashion capsule, a lifestyle content platform with an e-commerce twist, so she never gets caught all in on a variable man. With these 3 layers in place, Sally can both offer forgiveness and preserve her own trajectory. Jack, on the other hand, cannot stand aside. His withdrawal of funding at Billy's suggestion, and then seeing the alliance immediately fall apart, is a valuable lesson in family risk management. Jack knows better than anyone that every financial decision involving the Abbott family has emotional repercussions, and he, as the custodian of the legacy, needs to apply conditions to all future capital flows, clear KPIs, independent audits, and an advisory board free of emotional strings. If Jack wants to help Billy truly grow, he must reject the role of unconditional guarantor and replace it with the role of principal gatekeeper. When principles are embedded in the structure, the opportunity for Billy to do the right thing and for Sally to be respected is more concrete than a grand speech. The key point in the whole story is not whether Billy made a promise, but whether Sally is still willing to sit in the seat of trust that she has left empty for so long. Trust this time cannot be built with words. It must be built with weeks and months of normal operations, with meetings where the data speaks with Billy taking the initiative to say, let's pause. Let Sally's team figure it out. Trust also needs to be anchored by small victories that are true to their nature. A breakthrough content campaign that is not aimed at bringing someone down, but at boosting engagement. A mutually beneficial partnership, not a handshake, to tease a competitor. A quarter that ends without a midnight emergency call because of a victor. Dust. Each brick like that accumulated builds a bridge that Sally can cross. Of course, Genoa City always likes twists and turns. There will be times when the opportunity to fight back will appear as seductive as the call of the past. There will be times when a sponsorship rumor will shake the building. There will be times when a word from Jill will be enough to make Billy bite his lip. But if Billy prepares his response toolkit in advance, empowers a cool-headed COO, signs a personal commitment with Jack about the risk threshold, and most importantly, writes a Sally protocol of immutable principles, then even the curve will no longer be a deep abyss. If he can do it, the question of can Billy really make Sally number one will change to do you still want to go back to the old way when you see a new, clearer path? And if he can't do it, Sally will have a way out, an independent professional identity, a dedicated audience, and the power to say goodbye without losing herself. The story of Sally and Billy is not just a love affair with many scars, but also a test of emotional discipline, of self-control in a world where power, fame, and past debts always hover like ghosts on the ceiling. When you put the pieces together, Billy's hot and then cold track record, the paper-thin magazine cover promises, and the time Sally had to swallow her anxiety to stay calm, the picture emerges coldly. It's hard to believe that Billy can make Sally his number one priority in a real lasting way, especially if you look at the September 26th episode, where Sally's startled glances and defensive lip smacking betray a still crying intuition. She knows, though she tries to deny it, that Billy's internal clock needs only one new stimulus to shift the hands. To understand Sally's choice, we must begin with her very human need to be seen, to be put first, not just in words, but in actions repeated over time. In Marchetti, Sally had that foundation, measurable career milestones, sketches that emerged from the studio into collections that generated revenue and acclaim. When she moved to build Abbott Communications with Billy, Sally traded a paved runway for an open trail, taking risks because she believed in her own powers of persuasion and creative resilience. The problem arose not because Sally was incompetent, but because the teammates she bet on had never fully mastered the emotional densities associated with Chancellor Winters, with Jill, with Victor. Subscribe our channel for more latest update. In Billy, career, family, and combative habits mix like three opposing currents. Whenever one connection shorted, the whole system flickered. In that context, Sally's request to treat me as number one is not a romantic demand, but rather the minimum operating condition to keep her from getting caught in a cycle of retaliation and regret. Sally's skepticism, shown in a few quiet conversations, and especially in her tense face in episode September 26th, is therefore more systemic than emotional. She is reading the risk indicators that only someone very close to Billy can see. A schedule that puts confrontational calls before brainstorming sessions,